Hey, it's Tim again. Today we're pushing on with charts. Today we're going to do filled maps. This is super simple. I love these because they're so simple, but sometimes you can get sort of tripped up by a few details in Tableau. So let me explain. If you just go ahead and take any geographical field, you know it's a geographical field because you'll see these globe icons. You can see we actually have a location hierarchy right here. If you take any one of those and double click them, Tableau will assume that you want to build a map. So if I just go ahead and double click on city, you'll see that Tableau generates a dot map with all my cities as circles. If I was to go ahead and clear the sheet, I'm going to use this icon right here to do that. And if I just go ahead and do that now, and instead let's double click state, you'll see that again Tableau draws a dot map of all the states. And one of the great things about this is you can then add context onto those dots. For example, you can add the sales value onto the size, and that means each circle will change size depending on the sales. Super simple trick, nice and easy. It's as simple as that. It's really that easy. But sometimes people want to visualize filled maps. So how does that work? Let's go ahead and clear the sheet again, and we'll go ahead and do exactly the same thing. We'll double click on state. And at this point, if you've watched any of my previous videos about charts, you'll know that the way to control this is to go to this marks pane. And you can see here the automatic label is set to a circle. We actually want this to be a filled map. We'll go to this option here, select that, and there we go. We have our filled map. And now I can apply the sales value to the color. It makes more sense to use color because the geographical area of each of these states can't change. So you could try size, but it makes no sense. So if we put sales on color, then you'll see it will color it based on the sales of each of these countries. You might instead try to do something more interesting. For example, profit, put that on color, and there you go. You've got maybe a bit more of a story evolving. Now, it's as easy as that, filled maps, all of that. And by the way, you can style this. I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but you can change to wonderful different background maps just by going up to the map option, going to background maps and changing the one you want. You can also go to map options and it will load up a little hover, which allows you to add more control to the way the map behaves. And the very last thing, if you go to background maps and you go ahead and you select background layers, this will allow you to customize the map you're seeing even more. For example, switch off and switch on details on a map. It's super handy. Go ahead and check that out. That's not what I'm going to show you next though, because I think what I'm going to show you next is more valuable. If I go to another sheet, you see sometimes when you open up a data set, Tableau doesn't recognize your fields as location fields. So for example, if I go ahead and grab my highlighter, you'll see that these have been recognized as geographical fields. Whereas if you look further down in my data set, we have some suspicious items here. We've got states there and an alternate version of the region. And so these aren't showing up as geographical fields. How can we resolve this problem? Well, it's to do with the way that Tableau comes with a data set that already knows certain locations around the world. And you can use that to inform Tableau of what the field is supposed to be doing. So if I go ahead and select states, and then I just go to this little drop down, I go down to a little option that says geographical role, and you can see that Tableau is aware of certain types of locations, airports, area codes, cities, congressional districts, and a bunch more. What I can do is I can tell Tableau that look, this states field actually refers to the geographical role of state and province. And as soon as I do that, you'll see that we get this geographical icon on the left-hand side. Now, when we double click states, you'll see it loads up. So far, so good. But for those of you who are paying a little bit more attention, there's one more problem, and this misses by everyone. Over here on the bottom right-hand side, it says that it has 10 unknown places. And this is typically resolved where cities have the same name in multiple locations, and Tableau needs one additional piece of information to figure out what those cities are. So if we go ahead and select 10 unknown, you get this interface that gives you the different options. You can either edit the locations and manually correct them. You can filter the data, remove them, or you can show them at the default position, which is going to be for null values 0, which is going to be over near the equator. You don't want that. So let's go ahead and select edit locations, and you get this interface. And this interface, I find it so frustrating because it just loads up problems for you. Essentially, these are all the cities or states, that haven't been fully recognized. And the main reason is because they're ambiguous. If you go over here to the top, you'll see that Tableau is assuming that the country is the USA. But if I know my data set well, I know that there are other countries in this data, specifically Canada. So it's not good enough just to assume that it's the USA. So what I can do is I can actually tell Tableau, look, can you use another field to provide you the country information. And because we already know we've got a country and region field, you can see that we've got this right here. We can actually tell Tableau, hey, use that field and that will make these less ambiguous. And you can see immediately it cleared up all of those issues. Now when we hit OK, you'll see that we actually get the map redraw and we get the unknown sort of message disappear. And now we get the additional icons up here for Canada, which have been added to the data set. Superstore added this most recently. It's something new in the Tableau world. So that's super nice to see that Canada is now part of the data set. I'll move my face back to the right-hand side. And now we can carry on our merry way, making a beautiful map. We'll go ahead and make this a fill map. Sometimes I like to do a little white border. I just think it makes the different states look a little bit better. You can also do a few tricks with grid maps and so on. In fact, there's a few posts on LinkedIn, which I'll link to in the comments below, that show you how to do a grid map very, very easily. A Tableau user called Klaus posted a really nice guide on how to do that. So I'll make sure I link to that. But nonetheless, this is it. Now you can add some finesse to this. If you want the labels, you can of course add that. Just bring state again onto the label, and then you'll see that the labels turn up. Of course, you've got labels on the map itself. If you want to sort of play around with the opacity of the background as well, if I go to background layers, I'll get the option on the left hand side, and I can kind of wash out the map a little bit to give my map a little bit more prominence. I can also choose a sort of a nicer style that kind of makes it look good. I could do a whole bunch of things, even go to an outdoor map or a satellite map. I can switch off different water levels as well, in neighborhoods, subways, roads, streets. All of these are literally at your fingertips to control, and you can make your map do whatever you want. But the point here is maps are super simple. There's so much you can do. This is just a scratch of the surface. So what I'd urge you, if this is your first time building a map, complete the map and then go and watch tons of the other videos that are already available on YouTube, and you can find out more about building maps in Tableau. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.